At 74, John Goodman admits what he regretted most. For years, people assumed John Goodman's biggest regret had something to do with alcohol. I thought that too. But the truth turned out to be much quieter, and honestly, a lot more heartbreaking than I expected. When John Goodman recently reflected on the hardest chapter of his life, he didn't point to a movie he turned down or an award he never won. He talked about losing something he thought would always be there. That answer stayed with me, because it says a lot about the kind of man he's always been. The strange thing is, if you go back to the beginning of his story, none of this feels inevitable. John Goodman wasn't born into Hollywood. He wasn't surrounded by actors or producers or people who could open doors. He was born in Missouri on June 20th, 1952, and before he was old enough to remember much of anything, his father passed away. That left his mother to raise 3 children by herself. She worked long hours, first as a waitress, later as a saleswoman, doing whatever she could to keep the family going. I've always thought that losing a parent that early changes a person in ways even they can't fully explain. Maybe that's why Goodman has always carried this mix of warmth and sadness at the same time. Growing up wasn't easy. He was a big kid. The kind of kid bullies noticed immediately. School could be rough, and he knew it. Instead of trying to become invisible, he searched for places where he actually felt accepted. The Boy Scouts became one of those places. It gave him structure, a routine, a feeling that maybe he belonged somewhere. At home, another world opened up. Comic books covered the table. First DC, then Marvel. His older brother introduced him to comedy albums and jazz records, and before long, John was studying timing without even realizing it. Not acting, timing. How long you pause before a joke. How rhythm changes a story. Funny enough, those lessons would stay with him for the rest of his career. In high school, though, acting wasn't the dream. Football was. He was strong enough to earn a scholarship to Southwest Missouri State University. For a while, it looked like his future was already mapped out. Then everything changed with one injury, a torn ACL. Just like that, the sport he'd built his plans around disappeared. I've heard athletes describe injuries like losing part of their identity. Imagine being 18 or 19 years old and suddenly realizing the future you'd pictured doesn't exist anymore. That's where John Goodman found himself. And honestly, if that injury never happened, there's a good chance we never would have known his name. Looking for something, anything, to fill the gap, he wandered into the university's drama department. There wasn't some dramatic revelation. No lightning bolt. He simply auditioned for a play. Then something unexpected happened. He got the part. Years later, Goodman used one word to describe standing on stage for the first time. Smitten. I love that word. You don't usually hear someone with his larger-than-life image describe themselves that way. But it fit. He wasn't just trying acting. He had fallen in love with it. He also met people who would go on to have impressive careers themselves, including Kathleen Turner and Tess Harper. Suddenly, he wasn't surrounded by football players anymore. He was surrounded by storytellers. That changed everything. After graduating, Goodman packed up and moved to New York City. Not because he had work waiting, because that's where actors went if they wanted a chance. The reality was far less glamorous. He waited tables, picked up odd jobs, even worked one night as a nightclub bouncer. One night. That was enough. Apparently, the experience convinced him pretty quickly it wasn't the career for him, so he kept chasing auditions instead. Small theater productions, dinner theater, tiny film roles, anything that kept him moving forward. Those years don't get talked about very often. People usually skip straight to success. But I think they're the most important part of his story, because there were plenty of reasons to quit. The phone didn't ring every week. The money wasn't steady. Nobody was promising him stardom. He simply kept showing up. His first movie appearance came in the early 1980s. Most audiences never even noticed it. Then came True Stories, directed by David Byrne. It wasn't a blockbuster, but Goodman has often spoken warmly about that experience. He played an ordinary man searching for love in small-town America. He even sang in the film. More importantly, it reminded him why he wanted to act in the first place. Not for fame, for characters that felt human. Then another opportunity appeared. This one changed everything. The Coen brothers cast him in Raising Arizona, alongside Nicolas Cage.